You must be careful about the words you use, or the words you allow to be used in your house. Words are things. You must be careful. Careful about calling people out of their names, using racial pejoratives and sexual pejoratives and all that ignorance. Don't do that.
It's time to talk about it.
Pull up a chair and take a seat.
We're serving up recipes for life.
With Hampton University's Dr. Richard Mason and Dr. Tamara Williams.
Welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And this is Dr. Richard Mason, and welcome to another edition of Sunday Brunch with the Good Doctors.
Indeed, indeed. It is always good to be at the table with you. I'm always excited to have our conversations, especially when we get to pick the conversations that we're having.
Exactly. Not to mention the good food that's being served.
Food is always right. You know we have to have our food right.
Exactly.
It's got to go with the conversation.
So, listen, how's your week been? How have you been?
It's been a great week. You know, we had elections this week. You know, I just want to throw that out in the air. Congratulations to you in that regard.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate
you had a birthday
it.
and everything, right?
Oh,
so we had a great
yes.
week. And not all the things that I would have wanted to get accomplished this week, but certainly a nice dent into it. So it's been a healthy week.
Oh, yes.
What about you? Great week?
It's been a great week. Great birthday presents. Shout out to the community. Thank you for your support. It's been wonderful. Life continues to roll on. You know, you jump off one ship and back onto
Work to
another.
do.
Exactly. And I thought this week would be a little light, but it wasn't. It doesn't seem like I'm going to really get a break until Thanksgiving, maybe even Christmas, but I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Thanksgiving is close, so let's push towards that. Plus,
Yes.
you know, we had Wakanda Forever came out.
Yes.
So that's been amazing for our community as well. So
That was a great movie, too. Did you see? Oh.
Yes, twice. Getting ready to go see it again. We definitely have to support good, healthy things that happen in our community.
One of the things we talked about, my wife and I went, and we recognized in the 2 hours and 45 minutes, nearly 3 hours, it was all positive. You didn't see any crazy sex scenes. You didn't hear any cursing. You know, it was a really good, wholesome movie. And it really talked, you know, a lot of some family values and some things that really popped up. You know, we saw some common themes across the board, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It brought people together. And what I liked is about the diversity that it discussed and how we have some similarities with some of our issues and concerns in our communities.
Exactly.
Of people of color in general.
Exactly. And all it takes is communication.
Hey, that part.
That was a big piece right there. You talk about the need for communication, and you can resolve some things just through simple communication.
Absolutely. Which is why we're always here having conversations so that we can help and assist other people to have those important conversations.
Exactly. Especially moving into the holidays now.
That is why we are here today. Right.
So
The holidays get tough for some of us.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of those
definitely
people. I can be full transparency. I'm one of those people. So we'll get a chance to talk about some of those things. And
Oh, yeah.
we have a great guest today who really specializes in some areas, even talking about grief and those type of things too, which we know that some people don't always enjoy the holidays. But hopefully after today, we can give them some tips of ways in which they can better their holidays or at least have a little bit more control over their environments.
Exactly. How to manage that new normal.
Whew. And when it doesn't feel normal.
Exactly. But sometimes just knowing that it's okay not to feel normal. That's the big piece, I think, where people struggle. You know, they're thinking, you know, especially believers, you know, and you think God is going to take care of everything. He's going to provide. And then you're feeling some kind of way.
You think joy coming in the morning.
Right.
But they don't understand it's joy is coming because you made it through the night.
Right. But it's the getting through the night part.
Yes,
That's it. You got to get through the night.
That night part, when everybody is asleep, it's a little different.
Exactly.
It hits a little different. And so as some people are looking forward to the holidays, we know that some people financially are stressed during these times. And it's not always the best way or the best feeling, essentially.
Right.
But hopefully today we have an amazing guest here with us.
Yes.
We have Ms. Amika M. Lee Graham. She's a licensed clinical social worker. And so she's going to talk to us today and give us some great tips for people who are dealing with these issues in the holidays.
Yeah, so y'all go ahead and get started. I'm going to fix my plate.
I know that's right. As usual, you know, I just need you to bring me a roll back.
I got you.
Thank you. Amiga, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. It's
Thank
so
you.
good to see you. We had an opportunity to work together last weekend, and we met with the beautiful Soras at the Hampton Alumni Chapter, and we did a nice mental health workshop for them. And so once I met you and I heard what you had to say, I knew that our listeners need to hear a couple of these good tips that you have.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to thank you and Dr. Mason for inviting me on. This conversation definitely needs to be had, and I'm just honored to be able to be a part of this conversation and give out some points to our listeners, to your listeners.
Before we get to your tips and your points, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like some of the things that you do, how you got into being concerned about mental health, those type of things.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, actually, I got into the field just by just being me. I was working as an assistant, like a secretary at New Foundations and Newport News, and came across someone you would never know, but he was dealing with suicidal thoughts. And just by my conversation with him, he wrote a letter to the director at the time and advised her, because of our contact, his contact with me, he decided there was kind people in the world, and he decided not to commit suicide. And my director advised me, Amika, I think you need to go into the field of social work, and you need to be doing what we're doing. And I told us I don't think so, because I'll be crying in there with them. I'm gonna be crying,
Right.
and, I don't think I can do it. And she says, "Darling, they'll teach you." She said they'll
Ooh,
teach
now,
you.
That's something for you right there, because your
Yeah.
clients will certainly teach you a few things.
Yeah. And so at that point, once once she advised me they'll teach me, I said I love to learn. And through that process, you all, I discovered I am a wounded healer. And that's what I am, because all the tips and everything that I've gone through in my life, it has truly prepared me to talk about and to learn the things that I learned about depression and anxiety. My life experience has groomed me for such a time. So I have a husband, a phenomenal husband of 18 years.
Oh,
I have a blended family. I have a 31-year-old son who's married, and have my two grandbabies in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, she looked like she about 35 herself, so I was 31-year-old.
Oh my goodness.
Conversation.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Mason. And then I have a 21-year-old who's a senior at George Mason. I'm so blessed by that. And then I have a 16-year-old baby girl, Sarah, that goes to Hampton High School.
Okay,
All right,
you
for the
got a crab.
crabbers.
Yes,
All right,
indeed.
can't
And
crush a
so
crab.
that's
All
right.
Fight, rip, and roar.
Yes,
Try,
class of '93 here. Yes, indeed. So this is my community, and so attended Virginia State undergrad in English, and then attended Norfolk State for my MSW degree. And within 2-3 years after graduating, I passed that exam, the LCSW exam.
Amen, somebody.
And I'm telling you, I've been rolling ever since, and discovered my love was for the littles, the teenagers and the little ones, and had always been thinking about going to school to be a registered play therapist. And then the pandemic happened, and then it gave me the opportunity to do it virtually. With a phenomenal practice and an instructor out of Richmond, Virginia, Richmond Creative Counseling, under Miss Kimberly Hines. So I'm working full time in private practice, individual sessions. I have a group, a grief and loss support group that was actually created because there was a need in the community.
There's certainly a need.
Yes.
So many people lost family members, and it was just that grief and their stories was just sitting inside of them, needing to be just freed and just given the opportunity to speak those stories. And I just realized, individual is not enough, and there's other people that you can connect with that will help you, just partner with you and just let you know you're not alone.
Right.
And then I was just, I got to do it. And so it's a 12-week closed group, where we're just going to talk and just allow their stories to come out. Give them that space that they need, that we provide our clients that space. So that's what I do, and I love it. It's my calling. I can't imagine
You sound
doing...
very calm in it, too.
Yeah, I
Right.
can't imagine
Yeah.
doing anything else, y'all. I love it. And like I said, I'm
May
a
you
wounded...
never be burnt out.
That part.
Right.
And sometimes it gets heavy, which is why I talk so much about self-care, because I could do better with self-care. I don't do enough. but I believe this is my calling.
It's
And I love
amazing
it.
how God can just use ordinary people to do some extraordinary things. Because here she was, as she mentioned it, she was just
a secretary.
you
Oh, we
know?
heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just. You know.
Just.
No, he put
With
you in a
Jesus, you
place.
can be just anything. You know?
Yeah, and was
Exactly.
loving it there, just loving it, working around these
That's a
phenomenal
whole nother
people.
element of being content wherever you are.
Just happy, just yeah. I
a
was
happy person.
I was just happy helping them and doing whatever they needed me to do. And then she pulled me in the office. I was like, "What happened?" And she was like, "No, darling, you need to sit down. I'm gonna write one of your recommendation letters." And someone else wrote my other recommendation letter to get into the MSW program in Norfolk State. It's almost like she already had it set. This is what you're gonna do, and God took care of it.
God will
And,
use the right people to change your trajectory on you, and you won't even
Yeah.
see it coming.
That was me. Mm-hmm. That was me.
That is awesome. Well, definitely. When we start talking about the clientele that you're working with, tell us a little bit about, some of the things that you've seen and you've recognized in terms of some of the behaviors, especially around as we're moving into some of the holiday time.
Okay. Some of the main behaviors that I'm seeing, of course, is the depression. The holidays are not, jovial moments for everyone. Anxiety, because it's almost like you're wanting to just control everything, and you're like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? So I'm seeing an increase in anxiety. And really some PTSD. This pandemic, it traumatized a lot of people, even my littles and my teenagers.
Especially the kids.
Exactly, it did. It took them away from their social interactions with their friends and
family.
And some of them just did not know how to recover from that. So helping them recover from being 1 year isolated and then having to go back out and transition back into schools. Some of them missed milestones. I had 8th graders that missed their 8th grade dance, that missed their 8th grade graduation. I had seniors who weren't able to walk the normal way that they thought they were going to graduate and walk across the stage. So helping them recover and understand those moments and helping them just make sense of it so that they could go on and be just be positive and just make a change in their lives for the better. It was difficult, for me and for them, but we got through it, and some of them still, they're in college now doing their thing, and some of them still will say, I need an appointment, Miss Amika, I need to talk to you, and I'm still there. I'm still their support system, because I tell them, once you're on my, once you're a part, of my, once I take you on as a client, you're there. Until you, say you don't need me anymore. And so some of them I have seen since they were age 12 and 13, and then the pandemic happened, shook their world, but they still had to continue on,
It's interesting how that was 1 year, but yet we've been out of it longer than that.
Yes.
Even though we're still a part of it and we have these different variants out there, but we're still seeing the deficits.
Most definitely, the implications
Still
from
trying
it.
to recover in the school systems, the testings, and all that kind of stuff.
It's a lot of learning loss.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to
Yes.
deal with. And we don't think about just the simple milestones that happen from an educational perspective. And I think, I always tell folks, I think the pandemic was a blessing and a curse.
Both.
The blessing is that we've learned a lot. And I think some parents realize what our educators go through every day when they show up for their kids and all. And it has really pushed us as a society and a community to put more funding into education. And those of us who are advocates in education, we're constantly pushing the envelope to get more funding, to get more resources. But I've seen more people step up to the plate now with a heightened respect and understanding for what happens on a day-to-day basis in the classroom. But the curse is we still have some of the learning loss. We have a lot of social emotional challenges
A lot of that.
that we're dealing with. And I think right now as a community we're struggling at
Adults
this
and
point.
children.
Yes. And so that's where I think we really have to come together, because we're seeing some of the trauma-based actions and behaviors as a result of what's going on. And because people aren't getting the help that they need, we're seeing those behaviors play out in the community, from the fighting, the violence, and stuff like that.
The bullying, for sure.
Yes.
Yes.
And the temper tantrums. I'm seeing adults having temper
Yes.
tantrums. I know you have.
And they think it's okay.
And I know you've
Yes.
seen it.
Yes, exactly.
Helping grown folks emotionally regulate.
Yes.
All
is,
of that.
is what I yes.
All that. And so we've seen that deficit. Let's jump, though, because we can talk all day about those deficits that we've seen there. Let's talk about more about these holidays as we start pushing. We know that a lot of times people move towards New Year's resolutions, and some people don't want the year to end because of all the things that have happened there. And then when you're losing people, you're starting this new year without somebody, or you're starting this next holiday without someone. There's a lot of empty seats happening during the holidays. So
Yes,
let's talk about some things that people can do
Yes, indeed.
to
So
take care of themselves.
Yes, indeed. The first tip that I would give is just to acknowledge your feelings. You don't have to fake it. This is one time I tell people, do not fake it to make it. If you're sad, if you're going through some grief, if you're not feeling happy, it's okay to acknowledge that, and you don't need an audience. You really could be sitting in your car, and as sometimes you have to say, oh my goodness, I'm feeling sad right now. I'm missing mama. Goodness gracious,
knows.
I'm feeling overwhelmed. Just sitting in your
Yes.
car and just say, I feel overwhelmed. Getting it outside of yourself, outside of your body, speaking those words out. It's okay, and we say this all the time, it's okay to not be okay. So we can't walk around and act like we're happy when we're really not. Acknowledge it and get it out of your spirit. And you don't need an audience to do that. So that's the first thing that I would say. You don't have to live on denial street. Some people will literally try to walk around as if everything is okay.
Having a cookie cutter Christmas.
Yes.
Well, that's that church face,
Yeah.
How you doing, Sister So-and-so, blessed and
Yes.
highly favored, and all hell is breaking loose internally,
Yes.
and it's like, how do you process that? It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel the hurt. You don't want to walk around and be the poster child for grief either, but at
Because
the same
people then
time,
gravitate towards you
Yeah.
sometimes for that. And you're like, please stay out of my face. That is not
Right.
what I'm here for. I'm trying to exist in
Yeah.
reality, but
Which is
in
why,
real life is rough.
which is why I say you don't need an audience
Right.
to speak that out. Because
Yes.
oftentimes I'm in my car by myself when I say I miss you, Mama, and I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Which leads me to the next tip: is it's okay to reach out to your support system. It's okay if you have one or two really close people you can talk to. I have one that she's seen the ugly cry. So
I
I
know
can
that's
I
right.
can go to her when things are getting mighty rough, and she knows where I'm at. And I do this ahead of time, so I prepare. I advise everyone, prepare for the holidays. If you know it's going to be rough, and oftentimes we know when it's going to be hard for us, prepare for that in advance. Have someone you can talk to. Renee, you already know this is Thanksgiving time. It's going to be rough for me. I know, Amika. Have someone check in on you.
right.
It's okay to do that. And which leads me to another one. If you don't have someone you can talk to, it's okay to seek professional help. Someone who is trained in it, it's okay to have that person too. Because even as a therapist, I have talked to and do still talk to a therapist. So it's okay to do that as well.
That's right. Every therapist needs a therapist.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So I tell someone, like, if you don't have anyone, because surprisingly, and I'm sure you all already know this, some people do not have a support system.
Right.
That's one of the questions I ask. Who makes up your support system? Who do you go to talk to? And if they tell me they don't have anyone, I quickly assess that and say, okay, this person doesn't have a support system. How can I help them find their village? Because there may be some people around them that they're just not even going to.
Right.
Or they could have created some issues and concerns that have
Yes.
separated them from
Yes,
their
that needs to
support
that
systems
needs to be
needs to be addressed.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yes, indeed. So
Can't always be everybody else.
yes, indeed. It cannot. That's it. That's it. Which leads me to the next tip: is to be realistic. And Dr. Mason, you just hit on this. The holidays do not have to be perfect.
Right.
And sometimes people think, well, I've always fixed Thanksgiving dinner, or I've always done this. This is what the family is expecting of me. It has to
They
be
need
this
my
way.
mac and cheese.
They need my sweet potato pie. They need my.
I do. I need My inner fat boy just jumped. Sweet potato pie, y'all. Sweet potato pie.
I know, but sometimes when that's been your role and you don't feel like putting the love that's necessary in it, it's draining for some people
It
to
really
do
is.
that.
It causes stress for some people to have to do that, especially if they're experiencing a change, like if someone in their family has passed away. And now all of a sudden the family is leaning towards them to be the matriarch. Or for my gentleman, the family's leaning towards them to be the patriarch. That's a heavy crown. And so when there's expectations that, okay, now grandma's not here, so auntie, you have to be that. And now you're feeling the weight of that. I got to be perfect for my family. It's okay not to be that, and for you to verbalize that and to say, no, this is not how it's going to be. Let's create some new family traditions because, I'm not going to fix the 5 sweet potato pies I'm normally fixing. Let me teach someone else how to do it. I'm a delegate. We can all have a sign-up sheet to do it. So just being realistic and knowing perfect is not the goal. It should never be the goal.
It doesn't even exist.
It does not.
Right. Now, I do want to caveat this now. In the
She's
delegation, some folks should be delegated to paper plates and cups and napkins, all right?
And that's me. That's
right.
Everybody don't need to cook.
That part.
Especially in your grief.
No.
Especially if you're going to be forgetting some elements
For
to go
sure.
into the food.
Because that pie may not bless anybody, okay?
But the
Yeah.
trash.
Exactly.
Yes,
But no,
indeed.
those are some great points to make, because like you said, people think that it's supposed to be perfect, and you really have to discover that new normal. And so sometimes
And it takes time.
right?
Yes.
And sometimes that may mean just not cooking the turkey. That might mean frying some fish for Thanksgiving.
Yes, having a
seafood
seafood broil.
Yeah, see, exactly.
Changing the tradition, or maybe, and sometimes who you have that tradition with. The whole scenery sometimes
Needs to change, and that's okay.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next tip, which I had to learn. It is okay to say no, and no is a complete sentence.
Period. Dot.
And it's okay, because sometimes we feel the heaviness, especially during the holidays, to say yes. And I'm a recovering yes person.
All right.
I used to say yes all the time. My mama said, when you going to say no? You need to say no sometime. Well, mama, it's for church, or it's for so-and-so. It's for a good cause, mama. And she said, but Mika, you say yes all the time. You can't do everything. And it took in those moments of me feeling overwhelmed that I had to learn, and even losing mom, that I had to learn it's okay to say no. And I don't have to explain why I'm saying no, because then I would do that. So
I don't need to justify to you why my no is a no. It's just no.
It's no, and it doesn't need any explanation. And during the holidays, I really do think it becomes harder for people to say no. It becomes harder to set those boundaries as well.
They feel the guilt, and other people are stressing and pressuring, or it's not going to be right if you don't do this, or it won't be well if you are not here.
Yes.
My first year that my mom died, I tapped out. And when I say I tapped out, I wasn't going to those events. I was not interested in those events.
Me too.
My mother's Jell-O cake was not going to be present, and that was a full-fledged concern for me. And then the thought of pretending to smile or be happy or want to either be around the people when I felt that they weren't grieving her the way that I was grieving her. And I felt like it's too soon to celebrate. What are you doing?
That part.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's okay to say no, and people, they'll let them deal with their feelings while you're dealing with yours.
Exactly. Hence the need for boundaries. So if you can only stay at a family gathering and you know I'm going to give them 30 minutes.
That's all I got.
I can't, that's all I have. I can't give them 3 hours. And that's a boundary. A simple boundary is just saying I'm not going to stay but 30 minutes. That's all I have. And knowing that and sticking to that. So saying no and setting those healthy boundaries is a definite major tip that I think will free some people as it has us here at this table.
Because life is different, you know. And I would say, as having experienced that, you know, when my mother passed the first Christmas, I think I got up, we opened our gifts, you know, and things were just a little different. I got back in the bed, and my family was okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm thankful that they were, because I needed that moment just to get myself together. You know, that was the big piece for me. It was a matter of like, hey, this is for me. I need that time, for myself just to rest a minute and still wrap my head around this thing. Mom is not here, and so that was truly a blessing. So the one thing I would say is certainly be able to get yourself into a place where you are transparent with your feelings and your family can understand where you are. And once again, it gets back to saying it's okay not to be okay.
Yes, indeed. Which leads me, Dr. Mason, to my next tip. So thank you. Is don't forget about your self-care regimen. Don't forget about you during the holidays, because it's so easy to have a to-do list and you have all of these people on your to-do list, but you don't take care of self. So it's okay to have those mindful pauses, to continue those walks, to continue getting rest, because rest is healing. Sleep is what our body needs. So don't forget about yourself during the holidays. Take that mindful pause. It's okay to do that. And sometimes during the holidays, we do not take enough time out for ourselves, which can cause a holiday burnout. You're burnt out even before the new year gets
You
here.
need another
Right.
vacation before you go
Right.
back to work.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now I will say I don't ask the Lord for rest. I say relax. You know what I'm saying? Because
He's very clear on that point.
I'm very clear when it comes.
You
I
don't
don't
want
ask
that
the
final
Lord.
rest.
Right, exactly. The Lord may confuse me when I say, "Lord, give me rest." You know what I'm saying? He may call me home.
You're making it plain.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Lord, I need a relaxation moment. You know what I mean? And
I
so
just
Yes.
need 5 minutes. Jesus.
exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Give me an
I'll take a
opportunity
nap,
to
Lord.
relax, not
I
to
love
rest,
it.
Lord.
I love it. Yeah.
Not to rest.
Yeah, so that goes to another tip. Do not abandon healthy habits. And so with those healthy habits, these suggestions are continue to eat healthy snacks and eat healthy meals. Because sometimes during the holidays, and I'm guilty of this, I get real relaxed. I think I started Halloween, y'all. I'm going to be honest. I eat candy and then it just goes on to Thanksgiving. So I say, eat those healthy snacks.
Mika, you just got me off that train you was on. I'm gonna tell you now. Listen, I just jumped off the train, Mika. I'm gonna tell you
know,
right
my
now.
bro here stress eats over here. He's stress eating. He just went through a whole
Yeah.
full-fledged election. He's trying to get
Oh, my
every single
goodness.
plate.
You know, I understand.
Turning down no meals, right? He's like,
I
look,
get it.
run them up.
I get it. And
But that's some people do that. They
Yeah.
deal with the holidays and they look forward to the holidays to binge eat or to
Yes.
just take in as much as they possibly can until they're sick and ill, and
For
it
sure.
makes them sick and ill.
Yeah. And
I'm not even talking binge eating. I just like food. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I just like to eat.
And I would
like
say
good
this.
food.
Dr.
Good
Mason,
food.
I understand, because oftentimes I tell there's people, and I'm guilty of being an emotional eater.
Yeah, people are emotional.
It doesn't matter sometimes. People, oh, Mika, are you sad? No, I don't have to be sad to eat. I can be very happy and
People
eat.
eat when they're sad, happy,
Sad.
confused.
Yes.
Just call
Yes.
all the time.
People don't need a reason to
Don't
eat.
need a reason.
I'm in my feelings. Let me feed myself.
Let me just go and eat something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be happy after that. Yeah.
Yes,
People
indeed.
do that.
So I say, do not abandon those healthy habits. Even taking a walk, like a 30-minute walk. Release those happy, chemicals that our body already produces. So do the regular physical activity and get plenty of sleep
Yes.
in a form of naps, if it's relaxation. Sometimes during the holidays, people would that's one thing. Oh, I'll sleep, on
Stand
Christmas.
up all night.
I'm going to stay up all night. I'll sleep later. But get that adequate amount of sleep every night if you can. Set down, schedule a wind down period. For me, it's 10 p.m. I have it set on my phone and on my watch. It tells me it's time for you to wind down now. And you need that, because if not, I think my brain will keep going and I'm going to keep moving until about 11, 12 o'clock, and then I'm about to crash, all to get up in the morning at 6:30 or sometimes 6 o'clock to do it all over again. So don't abandon those healthy habits. And last but certainly not least, I would say stick to a budget during the holidays.
That's where a lot of people mess up, and right now
Listen.
we are dealing with a lot of financial things going on in the community.
Yes, and I say, when it comes to sticking to a budget, just know this is how much I want to spend. Just know in advance. If it's, husband and wife, if you're a single individual, just know this is what I'm working with. And if you tell yourself in advance, I don't want to put anything on my credit card, I don't want to have to do that, then stick with it. Because oftentimes we will cause our own emotional suffering, and I've been guilty, because I want to just see her happy with that PlayStation 5. I want to see him happy with the new lawnmower that costs over $1,000.
Or that new puppy.
That new puppy that's going to, So we need to know, like, this is our limit.
She's throwing rocks, y'all.
Listen, my daughter wants a puppy.
Oh, my
so I'm not throwing it.
Yeah, mine too.
See, now he thought I was talking about him.
He was dodging the rock.
Right. He's like, don't be telling Kelly not to give me no puppy. You know I want this puppy. No, I'm talking about my own family over here.
Okay, all right. As you were.
Yeah, right. You know, we do. We see things, even things that we know is going to be more responsibility for ourselves, and it's something about making your family members smile that you just get excited about.
Yes, and it's a good thing to see people happy and smile, but just know that if you have set an amount that you really don't want to go over, honor that. Honor it, and just say to yourself, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be tempted. Because we all have shopping weaknesses.
Or you're going places and people are giving gifts and you feel compelled that you have to give everyone gifts as well. Yeah.
Yes. And so it says try these alternatives. Donate to a charity in someone's name. It could be a family event. Like we're going to donate to Habitat for Humanity or whatever, Transitions Family Violence Services or whatever your agency that you want to donate to. Do that or make homemade gifts. Listen, y'all, I have made homemade gifts for people. They were such a hit.
They must be nice because I promise you, I don't want everybody home. Sometimes it's the thought that counts. I'd rather you just give me your words.
Sometimes you want to know, what were you thinking when you made
What were you thinking?
Tell me how you feel about
I love you.
I'll receive that, show me in that way versus like just something to collect, because that's a whole nother conversation of people just giving stuff to gift stuff. And then what am I supposed to do with all of this stuff?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm going to just write you a note for Christmas
Thank
this
you,
year. How
bro.
about that? All right, I'm going to write you a note.
That. Sign your name.
Yes.
I'm good with it.
Yes, and the last tip that I love as far as alternative to sticking to a budget is start a family or even a work gift exchange. There's so many different, like the elephant gift exchange.
We like elephants.
I do too. I do. So do something like that as opposed to having to buy 20 to 30 people in your family, all different gifts. In my family, we do a gift exchange. So you draw names, and that's the person you give to. And we have the children have their own little bag to choose from, and then the adults have their own bag, when it comes to gift exchange. So do something different so that you don't have to feel so financially overwhelmed during the holidays. And so it's just important for us to know that, because if we don't stick to a budget, sometimes we can, like I said, cause our own emotional suffering, and then come in January when we're having to, the bills keep coming, and you know the
bills don't stop.
They don't stop, and then we're at a point like, oh my goodness, I did this with this money that and then now you're
even more stressed.
Even after the holidays,
right?
You're stressed,
and everything is increasing. Interest rates are increasing. Everything is increasing.
Yes.
So people need to be mindful of that too.
Yes, indeed.
There's another year after this year.
That part.
Exactly. We still have to live.
We still have to
I
live.
love that. We still
Lights
have to
need
live.
to stay on.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And last but certainly not least, set aside differences during the holidays. Sometimes we're carrying things that we need to let it pass. And we need to just talk to family members. We need, we need to talk to those people that we're holding grievances with, or we're holding, feelings, resentment for. Set aside those differences because they can be heavy.
What do you do with them when you set them aside?
So what do you do with them when you set them aside? Oftentimes
do you tell
may
people
need
to pick them back up after the holidays, or leave
do
them?
not. You let it pass. You let
I'm gonna see you January 2nd.
Come.
I know that's right. We're gonna pick this back up
when I
January
see
2nd.
you on site.
But just you may need to just let's talk about it and just realize, like, you know what? I don't want to carry this feeling of anger anymore. It's too heavy. And so realize, like, I'm going to shift my energy, my emotional energy, from anger to gratitude, to peace. I want peace. I don't want us to keep carrying this anymore because that can be heavy. You know, and so even just being more grateful, you know, I tell people who even me, in my family at times when things have been heavy, you know, let's have a mindset of gratitude. What are we grateful for? You know, can we? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, you know, because that is, you know, because people have said that sounds easy, Doc, you know, when you just say that. But one of the things that when we are in a place and we're saying set your differences aside, I think people are caught up in trying to manage the other person, because the thing is, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, or I want you
And how
to
you made me feel.
apologize.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the truth of the matter is, we may live this life without apologies that we should have received.
For the rest of your life.
Exactly. And it's not about that person. The peace is truly about you.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to be able to release people. And that doesn't mean that I will walk past you and not speak, although I have, you know.
Let them know.
You know, that doesn't mean that. But in a sense of, that's who that person is. I can't change that person because I can't control that person. I can only control how I interact, when I interact, and how I respond to that person. So if that means that I'm not going to dinner with you anymore because you're just ugly in the restaurant and it's embarrassing to me and you just don't understand how, you know, my comment to you is, if the food isn't cooked to your liking, cook at home, you know, and you just can't get it, then I just won't go to dinner with you anymore. You know, and so I focus on those things in which I can control, and those things that I can manage, because I can't allow others to live rent-free in my head, and they're living their life just as happy and joyous.
Losing
and I'm,
zero amounts of sleep
Exactly.
while you up all night and your feelings.
Exactly.
And they could care less.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So that piece of it is more so when you say just learn to move on and set things aside. It's about recognizing what your role is in the situation and being able to move on. These are the things that I can control. If you're waiting to control or trying to control somebody else's perspective, you may not be able to do that. And so you just have to learn to let that part of it go. Now, is it easy? No. It's
That's
not
why I
easy.
said, what do you do with it? Because it's not easy for people to set aside their feelings, and they see other people happy, and on the inside, they're struggling with those interactions.
So. Because you recognize when people have done you wrong, you know, and they keep on moving along with their life, you really don't know that on the inside they may be experiencing some type of angst, anger, knowing that, you're smiling at me, you're being nice to me, this, that, and the other, but I know that I did you wrong or whatever. They're having their own battles on the inside that they can't come back and say, I apologize for or whatever, you know. And on the inside, you're upset. You know, this person did me wrong. This person still owe me money, and here you're struggling during the holidays, and they're out here shopping and buying,
Taking full trips to Disney.
Exactly, and you're thinking, don't you owe me money? You know,
I haven't been yet. Right.
Exactly. So it's about really letting those things go, and moving along for yourself.
Yes, and as you said, Dr. Mason, focusing on, and I do a whole diagram of this, the things in your circle that you can control and change, and people that's on the outside of that circle, you cannot control them, but you can control your own emotions, your own behaviors. You can control that, and you are the owner and author of your life. You know, you have the right to write your new narrative. From this point on, I can't go back. You can't go rewrite the past, but you can surely start from this moment on and say, no, this narrative is going to be different. I choose peace. Chapter 16 will be peace in my life. And I'm going to move accordingly. So if that means I cannot go in certain places because my peace will be robbed.
Places that you cannot
there you go.
There
See,
will
that
be
part,
places
yes.
that
So
you
Dr.
cannot
Mason,
go.
I get you when you say, sir, like, no, if my peace will be compromised because we're at a restaurant and you're doing certain things that robs me of my peace, I'm no longer going to be in that space.
Exactly.
And knowing that you can do that and feel okay
And
by
people
doing
will
that.
rob you of your peace
Right.
if you allow them
If
to.
you allow them.
If you allow them
Yes.
to.
Exactly.
So you definitely have to do circle checks. And when you're grieving, everything looks different. Like it's tinted differently.
Right.
It is.
So you have to really be cautious about who you have in your circle because you're easily triggered.
Right.
You're easily triggered when you're going through your emotional states like that.
And folks will
Yes.
say, I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? Well, that should tell you something.
Yes.
Not with you.
Exactly.
Yes.
That should tell you something. You've
Yes.
changed. Well, what have you done to cause me to change? You know, and so that's that reflection that down the road someone's going to get. And they may realize it, they may not realize it. But guess what? That's their cross to bear because I've released this.
Yes.
You know, and that's the important piece, like you said, getting more so to your own inner peace. And it's okay. You know, and sometimes we're struggling because we are social beings and we like the connectivity. And so we want that connectivity to be good, and when it's not good, we struggle. And like I said, that piece for me is I don't want to be in a place of struggle. You know, life is too short.
We all have the same 24 hours a day. And I'm very cautious about who I spend my 24
Right.
with.
Yes, because
Right.
time is priceless.
Right.
You can't get it back.
You cannot.
You cannot get it back.
Right, and we are not going to spend too much time arguing because that takes away from my time.
Two places we not going to go.
Right.
Back and forth.
Exactly, exactly.
It takes two people to argue. You will just stand there by yourself looking at yourself.
That's it. I'm okay. It's all right. That's quite all right if you feel that way. I've said my piece. Yeah, I'll see you later or never, and it's okay, whichever one.
That's right.
Yeah,
Whichever comes first.
exactly. And sometimes that may mean family.
Oh, yes.
A lot of
Yeah.
times, unfortunately,
family,
a lot of times, I really don't believe that our family is defined by blood. I feel that family also is who you put in your life and call family.
Yes.
Because sometimes the people who are your blood will treat you the worse than people who don't, you know where I'm going.
Yes,
with that. It
indeed.
happens. Because
Right.
they're people too.
Yes, indeed.
They're people too. And the people closest to you will hurt you the worst because they feel they have the right to.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it gets to a place where people will treat you the way you allow them
that part.
to treat you. That's it. And so when people talk about those folks who are always coming to them borrowing money and not paying them back, it's because you've
You give it to them.
you've allowed that.
Yes.
You know, and once again, that gets back into that. I've got to learn how to say no.
Yes.
Can you know?
And setting boundaries, Dr. Mason, because that's also a financial boundary that I will not allow. I'm not allowing anyone to. I'm not loaning out any money. You know, and so sometimes, like I said, when we set those boundaries, we're actually showing ourselves, I love me. You know, that I'm setting this boundary for me. You know,
And that's what some people have a hard time with because that's them wanting to control you
yes,
and then finding out that they cannot. And
Yes.
people don't like no.
no, they do not.
They don't like no. And when they ask expecting a yes. You know, they're not asking
Right.
wanting a no. Nobody wants to hear no. But it's a good word.
and it's
Right.
necessary.
It's definitely necessary. And
Yes.
I think our parents need to work harder to allow children to understand what no means. Because we see even at the college level sometimes they struggle with that word.
Really? How so?
How so?
Can I retake this test? No.
No. Is it, I wasn't able to do this because I needed time to do here or I wanted to go on this travel. Is it okay if you reopen that?
No.
Wow.
Can you give us extra credit? No.
No. Can I do something else? My grade is not to my liking. I'm 2 points, so I'm going to lose my scholarship if I don't get 2 more points. Can we redo this? No.
Wow.
No.
We really have to teach people, and especially our younger generation now, we have to teach in essence of resilience, number one. Number two, we have to teach them how to manage failure at this
Yes.
point because failure helps build us in so many different ways.
And now we respond to it.
Exactly. And we're
Yes.
dealing with the culture now of kids that we gave trophies to
That part, brother.
that should have gotten a
Participation
certificate.
trophies.
That should have gotten a certificate.
Of participation.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of the things I talked about years ago. We have to push a sense of value. And that's where I think from a mental health perspective, going into these holidays, it's okay not to give that kid that toy or something like that they want, that they haven't behaved properly for. You know, one of the things I remember growing up, if we did not behave a certain way, that you didn't receive. You did not receive the gifts and the things of that nature, so you knew you had to behave a certain way. Because my parents were very straight up when they said, "Oh no, mm-mm." But I'm not even going to go there about the whole Santa Claus thing, because that's a whole other story.
My daughter didn't do that.
But the thing is, Santa Claus didn't visit kids who didn't do what they were supposed to do. And that was the bottom line.
I was terrible in that regard. I was just honest with her and let her know who her parents were, and they was working hard every day to give her the things that she needed, so that when other people in the family would give you stuff, they didn't get that from Santa. They worked hard and give you that. So make sure you're appreciative of the things that your family is doing for you and giving to you. Yeah.
And we have to teach these kids that lesson of gratitude, that they have to work to earn certain things, because now we're in that place where, like I said, from
entitlement.
Exactly. And so going into the holidays with the mindset, I think that's where you were talking about earlier, you're just struggling to buy the gifts and to do things. We're embarking upon a recession. For some families, that's going to be a challenge, and we have to be able to have these courageous conversations with our kids to say, hey, listen, whereas you may have gotten 10 things, now you may only be able to get 5. And it's okay, all right? And we're teaching them things.
Yes.
But we're also releasing that pressure as an adult, as a parent, to say it's okay to give where you can.
Yes.
And how we get past some of those things. Because now you're dealing with a whole nother circle of circumstances when it comes to just mental health. It's that whole not being able to provide for your family. And, so it's a lot.
Now, that in itself is a draining feeling.
Yes,
that's where we get to the depression, the despair, and a lot of people checking out because they can't deal with that part of the failure,
right,
or that vision of what that loss looks like.
Exactly.
Or if everybody else, your kids are stressing you out because everybody's getting this thing and you cannot give them that thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the things we haven't quite touched on, we've just talked about some of the behavior things and life circumstances, but just from an environmental perspective, it's a thing called seasonal depression. We talk about the winter blues, So our bodies are affected by the barometric pressure that exists.
Yes.
And sometimes we fall into this whole seasonal depression and we just don't realize why we're in this funk,
We just had daylight savings time.
Exactly.
And in the fall, people deal with it better than they do in the spring when we lose that hour.
Right.
But it does play a big part in how we deal with ourselves.
Yes.
I know you probably felt the difference when you had that extra hour to sleep last, weekend. I was not disappointed at all.
For sure. And for some, it's hard when it gets dark sooner, as we're experiencing. It can cause people just to feel very much so sad and, oh my goodness, I'm losing, time and just having to help them create. Now you can buy certain light that will, make it seem as though it's light outside.
Right.
So helping people just find ways to cope with just it getting darker sooner. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm seeing, the seasonal depression, for sure.
Yeah, and it's real. And, it's one of those things that years ago, I'm not going to say I didn't think it was real, but some of the clients I was working with, I started tracking them just in terms of working with them periodically. And I noticed at the same time frame, they would come back. And initially it was, how do I track this back to a place in their life? Whether it's a death of a parent, a spouse, a child, something that happened in these situations. And what I noticed is it wasn't necessarily a situational
It was a time of
depression.
year. Yeah.
It was the time of year that was happening. And so trying to figure out at this point, how do we prepare for this? At
It's
this place?
coming. It's like your taxes.
Yes.
Exactly.
for
And so
sure.
one of my clients, she created a celebration. And that was one of the things that she knew when it got to this time of year, this certain aspect, she began, that was her thing, let's have this winter blues party, and I think everybody had to dress in blue and stuff like that. So she really added made it festive at a festive time. It was one of those things I always tell folks, take that pen and write your own narrative. Don't allow someone else to write your narrative. And that's what she did. She took control of the situation.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
she prepared and took control.
exactly.
That's the key.
That's a great example
That's the
of what
key,
people can do
yes.
in the holidays when they're going through grief is find a way to prepare and take control.
Yes.
And to figure out what is that one thing they need to make them happy. For me, it's the water.
Me too.
I love the water.
Yeah.
I don't have to get in it.
Yes.
I can see it, and
Yes.
it's a good, peaceful place. And so being able to find those things is going to help you prepare
Yes,
for that.
indeed. And it may be a long time for some too.
Absolutely
Not being
necessary.
around
Yeah.
everyone. For me, I think that's too. Water and my alone time. I love it. I don't need to be around everybody during the
Anyone
holidays.
for me.
You know, I just love to be with myself. And I say with myself and not by myself. To be with myself. That's healing for me. And so you have to find that which heals you. And for that
Right.
young lady, it was turning, something that would be typically a sad time to a festive time. I love it.
That's what
She
she did.
brought her support to her so that she
Yes.
would not feel like she was alone in those moments. And so some people, it's about really understanding yourself and your
Yes.
own needs, because we don't all need the same thing. And so it's kind of like a car. We don't like the same thing. Same way with your therapist. We don't all need the same type of therapist. So
right.
it's about finding that good fit for you.
That's right. That is key.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'll tell you, I did have a little funny thought when you started talking about the water,
Yes.
and changing. One of my other clients, we were dealing with this thing with the loss of, I think it was their mother who passed away, and the winter, they were out in the Midwest, and during the wintertime, you really can't do any burials and stuff like because it's
It's
the ground
cold.
is
The ground is
frozen
cold,
and
yeah.
everything, whatever. And so they, along with her siblings, they were trying to figure out what to do with mom. Mom had passed away and everything, whatever, and they were going to, cremate mom, and they wanted to put her in, I think it was like Lake Michigan or one of those lakes out there that mom wanted to be next to. And the brother was practical. He was like, really? No, let's just do blah, 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 whatever, and all, whatever. So she said, well, I want to be next to mom and this, that, and other. He said, well, okay, well, if we just put her over here, just go and turn the water on, so you'll be close to about it. You just turn the faucet on if you want to be next to mama, And she just looked at him, and I said, and that's when the fight started in therapy, So
Clearly, because did you see the way I looked at you? Turn the water on. What are you talking about?
it was absolutely the funniest. But I will say that was a breakthrough for the siblings, because she brought her siblings in because they were having an issue, And so that was truly a breakthrough for them.
You were able to see what she was dealing with.
Oh, yes, I was. And he was truly a clown, but a funny clown. You hear what I say? But they came together. It was one of the best family sessions that I've had, working with them and them coming together, dealing with, the death of their mom and how to manage everything and all and so forth or whatever. So, but once again, that gets into being able to write your own narrative. And pulling things together, whether you're able to see it from someone else's perspective or not, the reality is, so long as you can communicate. And then once you've done your part to communicate, guess what? You can't control how someone else decides that they're going to receive this thing here, And so you just have to learn how to let it go and manage yourself. And that's how you keep your peace. That's how you keep your sanity and all. And you're able to live life without any headaches, any challenges.
That's why
Yes,
self-care is not selfish.
It is not. It's
No.
self-full.
You have to take care of yourself. You can't help anybody else. And especially for our people out there and people at this table specifically, when your job is to help people. You're always helping people. That's your first thought, to help people. You definitely have to make sure that you're putting your mask on first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And that for me, over the years, that's something that I had to grow into, to understand that whole process, And so working with other therapists, dealing with burnout and things of that nature, whatever, it gets to that place of, this is how you have to take care of yourself. And it's okay to refer out, and oftentimes folks will say, well, I want to see you. Well, these are the parameters. You're going to have to wait for a time. And ethically, I don't want you to wait that long. So let me go ahead and send you to someone else. You know, I'm going to send you to someone who I think is reputable, someone who's credible, that I think can help you. And if they can't, call me back. I'll send you to someone else, you know. And that's not me passing you along. That's me trying to get you the help that you need immediately. Because if you've taken the time to seek counseling, that was in and of itself a big jump for some people. You know, so reward yourself for actually doing that. But just know we have to take care of ourselves too.
Yes.
So that's huge. That is absolutely
Absolutely
huge.
big. We definitely want to make sure that everybody knows, like if they missed any of your tips, that the shows are on our YouTube page.
Yes.
So, Sunday Brunch 757, they can catch all the tips, they can catch up with the previous shows, and that it'll be airing live too with the show.
Exactly. So I'm gonna tell you, I've had a great day. You know, this time at the table has been really good for me. Just being able to think through some things, and you know, hearing some of those tips that you gave. You know, there are things that I knew, and there were some things I was reminded of at this point, especially going into the holidays. And so, self-care. Don't call me, y'all. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'll be at the table eating. So.
Take care of yourself and your stomach. Indeed. Thank you so much for coming out, and we definitely have to have you come back.
It has been my
when we get
honor.
into the new year, there's always things to talk about related to mental health.
Yes, indeed.
We
Thank
get
y'all
our
for
minds
having
right, our lives will definitely follow.
For sure. Thank y'all for having me. It's been my honor. It's been my honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us right here on WHOV 88.1 FM.
The essence of HU.
Keep your fork.
Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. for more delicious topical recipes for life on the Sunday Brunch.
On Smooth 88.1 WHOV.